We are living almost in the Truman Show. If you start trying to get out, crazy stuff starts happening. You get canceled. Think about the people getting canceled. It's bizarre. One of the things that happens is Truman starts to see cracks. He walks randomly into a building that he never goes into one day, and the elevator doors open. There's no elevator there. It's just a break room for all the actors in the Truman Show. And he sees through the set, and he sees kind of behind the scenes one day, which is like someone in our life realizing that marketing and advertising and all this kind of stuff is ruining us. It's building a prison that we can't see, just like in the Truman Show. He starts questioning reality, and the moment he does that, everyone around him steps in to say, whoa, man, you need to come back to Earth. You need to come back here. Stay here. You need to stay here. Which is what do our friends do when we start going hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't want to participate in that. It's very eerily similar. Truman is willing to die for the truth. And if you're in the business of finding truth and your price isn't your life, then you are for sale. Your version of truth is for sale.
It's June 2025. Now this video I'm going to be talking about jobs and finding a job in today's world. Now a lot of people can relate to this, especially older people, and I'm going to hit on about 10 points regarding this, and I'm going to try to do this kind of quickly just to give an idea of what it's like to find work in today's world. So the first obstacle that we run into is something that's called ghost jobs. So what legitimate companies will do will post positions, job openings that don't exist, or if they do exist, they're not hiring, but they're posting these jobs so that people will respond to it. And there's many different reasons why they would do this. For one, to collect data on job seekers, and probably the most, how should I say, probable reason is to look good to, for example, potential investors or higher ups in the company, whatever. So they post these ghost jobs and people start applying to them, thinking, okay, perhaps may even think this is a shoo-in because they're qualified, they meet all the requirements. So that's one of the first issues people face. And apparently the job market, and there's some very famous job posting sites that are saturated with ghost positions. And for someone looking for a job, it's very deflating of the morale, because you think, oh, I applied to in one day 20 jobs and not even a reply. So there's a really negative effect to all this. Now the other point that we can look into is high expectations for even low-end jobs. Perhaps asking for some sort of degree, university degree or something to, for example, clean toilets or be a dishwasher at a restaurant. And part of this has to do with some imagination of an AR person thinking we're hiring a better quality person. But really, in my former career histories, what you're actually looking at is, can this person start and finish something successfully? For example, if you start post-secondary education, are you able to complete it? And how well did you do completing it? So it's basically kind of like a gauge that's being used to filter people out. Perhaps an unfair gauge, especially when it comes to low-end jobs. But this is a very big reality in today's world that people are faced with. And for a lot of people, especially people who are older, this is all new to them. It's foreign. Then we come to having no experience or no specific experience in, for example, a low-end job, or being overqualified for a position. Now, the term overqualified has many interpretations, but we'll just take it on face value, being overqualified. So somebody's applying for example, a low-end job they have no experience in, because perhaps they had a career prior and now they're just trying to find a job, make ends meet, etc., like anyone else. And they can't get a job because they don't have experience. It doesn't even have to be a low-end job. It could be a good job, but if you don't have experience, and this ties into high expectations, where they want years of experience for an entry-level position or a low-end job. And how do you get that? And if you don't have the opportunity, we get into this little circle. I'm going to stop and segue for a moment. When people are young, entering the workforce, they have no experience because they haven't lived long enough to do anything with their life. So you have a legitimate no experience, no life experience or anything else. Then we have things in people's personal lives, for example, like criminal record checks. And even jobs wanting to clean toilets require a criminal record check. To be a dishwasher, criminal record check. Because someone in some HR somewhere at some point thought, well, we have to weed out the bad people, and this is the best way to do it, which is really unfair. Now, I want to highlight something here, that these criminal record checks obviously do not show, for example, wrongful convictions. And even if you have the opportunity to explain to a potential employer, hey, this is a wrongful conviction, and they may or may not accept it, it doesn't matter because there's a criminal record. Now, a lot of times, criminal record affects, for example, someone being insured by the company, bonded, and they can't get around all that. And that really makes it harder on people. Even if someone in their life made a mistake, they have a criminal record, it makes it a lot harder. Now, this comes into age. Now, age is a big factor when it comes to looking for work. The older you get, the less likely someone's going to want to hire you, especially someone in a hiring position that's younger, much younger than you are. They don't want to hire someone, for example, who has way more life experience, has accomplished way more, and may be deemed as a threat of some sort, triggering their own insecurities. It may not even be an HR person. It could be, for example, someone, the owner of a business or a corporation, someone higher up. And if you appear smarter, perhaps you are smarter, they don't want to run into the potential of looking stupid. And so age plays a big factor. And then potential employers will say, well, this person has done so much, they're not going to want to work here, forgetting the fact that this person with life experience is applying to a job, whatever it may be, for X amount of dollars, making an informed conclusion on what they're doing, and this potential employer, for example, not taking the opportunity to say, hey, this individual, being, for example, overqualified and having all this life experience, can really excel quickly the company, the business, whatever it is. But their egos come into play, and it's very hard to be as a descriptive top dog when there's someone, a bigger dog in the pen, okay? So we have age being a very, very big factor in today's world for people trying to find jobs. Now this segues into, for example, how with age there might be physical limitations. For example, bad health through something natural, or injuries throughout life, what have you. So now there's physical limitations. Now this would restrict someone, for example, doing a physical labor job, but you can also tie this in, for example, with blue or white collar work, say in an office, where there might be some physical limitations, say sitting too long or working on a keyboard or something, and there's going to be some restrictions there as well. So that's kind of ties in with age. But if you have a disability, although a potential employer would never say it openly, but it is inside their heads, and they do talk amongst themselves behind closed doors. And this is reality. This is what goes on in the world. And this segues into work environments have changed completely. This ties in with age because, for example, someone older, when they start off in the workforce and perhaps throughout their life and their career, whatever job they were doing, the work environment was completely different. In today's work environment, we see, for example, a lot of social justice. We see a lot of nonsense and these little courses that have to be taken, which are absolutely ridiculous, simply to comply with, for example, something called political correctness. So the environment has changed. The environment and workforces have become toxic to the point where even people who are established in an environment being introduced to this new environment, they're on edge. There's a lot of tension because people are scared, for example, of false accusation or something, or being reprimanded for saying something innocently that is spun so out of whack that they might even lose their job. So the environment has changed as well, which ties in with age and everything else. And employers, or potential employers, they will look at someone and figure if this person will adapt to the new work environment, whether it be blue collar or white collar, and make an uninformed conclusion based on their limited knowledge base, and perhaps even using their own emotions, which they would say, oh, this is my experience talking, which is nonsense. But anyway, so there's something else added to the mix when trying to find employment in today's world. The environment has changed, and not only the environment within an employment, but looking for a job environment has changed as well. There used to be a day you would walk in with a resume and meet somebody, and if you were able to pitch yourself well enough, you could even end up getting an interview right on the spot, and that company may not have even posted a hiring, or maybe they were talking about that morning in a meeting, maybe we need someone, and you just came in at the right time and boom, you got a job. In today's world, if you try doing that, well, chances are you're being escorted off the property and they're not taking your resume, and maybe they're even telling you, well, you have to apply online and submit your resume and go through all this process and nonsense and everything else, which now segues into who is reviewing all this information, these resumes and stuff. It's not a person anymore. It's artificial intelligence looking for keywords, how things are written, everything else. And if you don't make the cut with whatever the AI is programmed to look for, that's it. Your resume is out. And you could be the best person for the position, but the AI is determined, nope, this is not the right person. So AI being part of the hiring process has changed the environment greatly. And there's no longer the ability, for example, to pitch yourself to an employer to say, hey, I'm the right person for the job. It's this AI making the decision, a robot, something that's not even living. And now I guess I'm going to get to the elephant in the room, which is experienced by countries all around the world. And that is people coming in from other countries and saturating the job search in another country because they want to, whatever it is, they want to improve their life or whatever, which is fine. However, now we have people who were born and raised in a country competing with, as a descriptive, with no insult intended, because my family came off the boat, just throwing that in there. They're competing with outsiders for work. And what we're seeing now, a slight segue here, is how employers, businesses, corporations, even government are subsidizing employers or potential employers to hire these people, paying up to 70% of their wages and everything else, which is, I don't even know what to say about that. But this is what's happening right now. People are being, or businesses are being encouraged to hire outsiders, as a descriptive. So this is another element that of competition. So now you're no longer competing with, for example, people you went to school with. You're now competing with people you never even heard of before. And that's a whole other set of problems that people today are facing in today's world. Now I'm going to expand on this just slightly, that these people from another country coming to whatever country, they're now complaining that they're competing with their own people because they're saying, well, there's too many people of their own in whatever country that they're in. And again, this is not just your country. For example, I'm in Canada. All countries, even the people who are coming, I'm going to use this as an example, to Canada, their country is being saturated by other people from other countries, and they're experiencing the same thing, and that's kind of pushing them out and trying to improve their life elsewhere. It's a crazy circle, and this all ties into another deeper topic that I've discussed before many times. And now we're going to talk about the economy, and how I've even mentioned it, even in recent videos, how we are in a silent depression. And part of this has to do with everything else that I've said just previously. And it's just spinning out of control. We are in a silent depression, and each individual person, when they go to the store, can see it, they can feel it, they can taste it. And if you go into a grocery store, for example, and I've done this, and you just step back and you watch other people looking at a shelf, and you can see the wheels turning in their head, and they're trying to decide, should I get this or not? Do I need this? Can I afford this? And they're kind of trying to do some price checking with something maybe similar, and whether they take it or not is not the point, but you can see the stress on people's faces when they go shopping. So this is a very real thing that's going on. Businesses, corporations are experiencing the same type of thing, perhaps on a different level, but the economy is impacting them as well. And now this is going to segue into the final point that I would like to make about finding work in today's world. And that is how businesses are laying off people. Sometimes people are being replaced with robotics or computers, to businesses just closing down, period. And this is impacting people looking for work, because when businesses close down, that's one less place that they can apply for. So overall, what we're seeing in today's world is people looking for work, and these invisible foes, stress, artificial stress that people are faced with. Now, this, I focus on, for example, older people, but this is also impacting younger people as well. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but this is what's happening. And if you start looking into these ghost positions and everything else, it will completely floor you. So what I have been saying for a very long time, all you can do is survive. You're not going to protest your way out of this, because protests have never accomplished anything. Just survive. Be prepared, overcome, adapt, and move forward as best as you can. And I'm just going to close off by saying pretty much most, if not all, these points that I've highlighted here, I experienced myself today. Anyway, things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Self-worth should never come from feedback from other people.
Okay.
You're going to see all this stuff online. If you go look up, how do I feel confident? How do I get rid of social anxiety? How do I influence people? All of this stuff. If you wrote me a check today for $10 million, and I teach sales and influence and persuasion and all this, and you said, I want you to develop the most badass, kick-ass sales script that's ever been written in the history of humanity. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's say a year goes by and I finally got this one pager printed on gold paper, right? And I bring it to you. I'm like, dude, I've got this for you. I'm really excited about it. And you're like, all right, great. And then you take it and hand it to somebody on your sales team that has severe social anxiety. It's now the worst script in the world.
Right, of course.
So it's all about us, and who we are is more important than influence.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, when is it going to get easier? When you die.